Buonasera a tutti, good evening and welcome to the Italian Radio Hour. Io sono Viviana and I would like to welcome back our regular listeners and also welcome any new listeners. Also be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook at the Italian Radio Hour and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch up on any past video interviews. Vorrei dare il benvenuto ai nostri ascoltatori da tutto il mondo, grazie per essere con noi anche oggi mentre continuiamo il nostro viaggio per l'Italia e la cultura italiana. Well, today I have the joy of welcoming someone whose presence is as vibrant as our memories, Mary Ferro. A beloved music teacher, performer, and storyteller at heart, Mary is also the author of a newly published memoir, From Calabria to Carnegie, Music for Bread. With deep roots in Pittsburgh's Italian-American community, Mary's life has been shaped by song, tradition, and the incredible women who came before her. She once danced with the folk group I Campagnoli and has spent her life nurturing the power of music, not just as an art, but as a connection to heritage. She will be presenting her book at the Heinz History Center on May the 22nd, and we're lucky to get a preview of the passion and heart behind the pages today. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere, ma prima pubblicità. Parli italiano? Do you want to learn, improve, or master your Italian? Istituto Mondo Italiano can help. Located in the heart of Regent Square, Mondo Italiano offers small group classes and one-on-one private tutoring in person or online to help you learn Italian in no time. Visit us online at istitutomondoitaliano.org.
Well, Viviana, I'm extremely well. I'm just very grateful for this opportunity that you've allowed me to come on to your.
The pleasure is all mine because I think I don't remember how many years ago I was actually exposed to you with the Campagnoli, and I was enamored with the dances, the music, and the passion that you and the rest of the group put in all there. So I knew that there was going to be much more that I wanted to discover about you. And From Calabria to Carnegie, Music for Bread, your wonderful memoir, you are just giving us all the opportunity to go through all these layers, all these stories and history of Pittsburgh Italian-American community, your own family. And so we will be talking, So we will mention the Campagnoli afterwards, but I really would like to take this opportunity to give you as much space as you like to share stories about your book. And I personally, which I don't know if you can say it, but I do have the book right with me.
Well, thank you.
The dedication, okay? The dedication really sets the stage for what and the values that we're going to really feel throughout the book. You have your dedication to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You have it in memory of the characters that we are going to hear all about. You express gratitude towards people that immigrated from Italy to become American citizens, that had nothing, received nothing, and work hard with great sacrifice to give me everything. But I think we can say that all of us that have benefited from those sacrifices, obviously your love to the joys of your life, your children, and we'll find out a little more about them, the grandchildren, and so forth. And then the last line, faith, values, courage, character, and love didn't cost a penny, but proved their perpetual worth. And with these, you got me, okay? So...
Oh, thank you so much. Beautifully read, by the way.
Oh, thank you. So when people, approach you, say, I'm a music teacher, but all of a sudden you are a published author. So it's obvious that the question is, how did it all start? At what point, what triggered the need, because I'm sure there is also some sort of cathartic need to put all those memories down.
Absolutely. Well, as you said, I was a music teacher for many years in the public school system. But prior to that, my mom, my father had so many interesting stories. And my mother was the director of the Campagnoli. Her real name was Giovanna, Janota, but they
Mhm.
called her Janie.
Mm-hmm.
So after I retired from music teaching, I decided to write, I wanted to write a historical documentation of my family's life, but I had no intention of having it become a book. So
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a page a day, a page a day, a page a day, praying that I would remember all of the things that had happened in my childhood up until now. And I was just going to leave it in my chest of drawers. And a friend of mine called me and said, "You know what, Mary, you need to have that book published." I said, "But I'm not an author. I don't know what I'm doing." She said, "Well, just call this publishing company and they'll tell you." I said, "But I don't know what I'm doing." So she goes, "Don't tell them you don't know what you're doing." So I called and I said, "You know what? I really don't know what I'm doing, but I have this manuscript. It was well over 400 pages by then." And they said, "Well, send it to us and we just have to let you know we don't accept a lot of manuscripts." And I said, "Well, that's fine because I don't know what I'm doing." So I sent it to them and I heard from them about 2 weeks later. "We not only like this book, we love it." I said,
Mm-hmm.
"You don't love it because I don't know what I'm doing." Anyway, fast, fast forward after that. So then it became published and I was thrilled. I was
Yes.
just thrilled
Mm-hmm.
because even as a child, I was very perceptive. I always noticed my surroundings, what was going on around me. And even at that young age, I thought, I really wish I could share this with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably will never get the chance, but oh well, I did.
Yeah. So let's go into who are the characters, which obviously these are your family members.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about their journey, what part of Calabria they were coming from, what brought them here, and because in the first few pages you tell us who is who, okay,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
some names got Americanized, but
Right.
let's do the genealogical tree.
Okay. That's fine.
Mhm.
Well, my mom was the youngest of four children. And,
Mhm.
and this also ties in with the title of the book because
Mhm.
I was going to call it From Calabria to Carnegie, and then I had
Mhm.
a little subtitle that said Music for Bread, and I'll
Mhm.
explain why that was after this. But my mother's mother was from Frosinone, and she was
Okay. Mhm.
illiterate in Italian and in English.
Mhm.
And she had married a carabiniere over there.
Mhm.
And he came like all the rest of the legal Italian immigrants used to come, came to the United States until he could make enough money to send for her. So he sent for my grandmother, whose name was Vittoria.
Mhm.
She was 18 years old. And her mother said to her, "You know, I'll never see you again." And she never did.
Those goodbyes that, yes, between the relatives in Italy, that must have been the hardest, especially mother to daughter.
Oh, I can't
Mhm.
imagine. I
Mhm.
just can't imagine that heartache. And
Yeah.
then she came and was with her newly husband, and she was going to have my older aunt. And
Mhm.
he had Bernardino was his name, and he was in World War I.
Okay.
He started developing severe headaches.
Mhm.
And here she was expecting my aunt. He died from a brain tumor.
Mm.
Here she had just gotten here at age 18. She was no money, a widow, and illiterate in Italian and in English. So
Okay.
his father wrote to another brother of his that was here. He said, "I really wish you would marry Victoria." They didn't know each other.
But that was, I'm getting a feel that maybe it was, I don't want to say common practice, but also
Yes.
practice, especially because now we have also a child that is being born. So
Mhm.
it's also fathering another member of,
Right. Of the
becoming
family.
the uncle and the father at the same time of that one child.
Absolutely. So my older aunt's father would have been my mother's uncle. So then
Mhm.
my grandmother had three more children. My mother was the baby Giovanna. And baby Giovanna was the only one that showed any musical talent whatsoever. She
Mhm.
had gone to a Catholic school, St. Philip's, and since my grandmother was illiterate in Italian and in English, any type of news it would have to be done orally.
Mhm.
So the nun came to my grandmother's house and said, "You know what?" They called her Janie. "Janie is so talented. She's going to have piano lessons." And my grandmother says, "What the heck are you talking about? I can't afford a piano lessons." She said, "I'll tell you what, Victoria, if you make me homemade Italian bread, I will give your daughter piano lessons."
Oh,
And
that's
that's
where
where it
the
all
word.
began. That's why the music for bread part, because
Mhm.
that started the whole thing.
Yeah.
That started
And
the
it
whole thing.
and the nice thing is like not only the offer of the sister, back in the day, you kind of traded what you made. If
Bartered, yes.
maybe
Mhm.
you went to the doctor and you brought a basket of
Right.
foods or something. So I wish sometimes we went back to those
I
those small
agree.
things
I
because they're so
agree.
genuine. They're like really,
Well,
it's a really express of a gratitude. Mhm.
as a result, my mom, they would sit around, they received a free piano. Someone gave them a
Wow.
free piano.
Mhm.
So my mom, in her wisdom, she decided the best time to practice were when her older sisters were doing the dishes.
Just make it
And
now.
they had no musical talent, so they thought it
Yeah,
was great. Yeah. So
yeah.
mom took those piano lessons and she valued, and she was always grateful for them. So as a
Mhm.
result, all of us became musicians, and et cetera, et cetera. And it just went on and on and on. But then my dad, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, obviously teaching piano probably allowed your mother to know a lot of people and also you being exposed to the community. So can you
Yes.
elaborate on that? Because also I, as an Italian teacher, or when I do cooking classes, that we welcome hundreds of people per month. It's all new friendships and new faces and so
Oh,
forth, and
definitely.
makes me feel part of the community. So how did that contribute to creating a
Well,
sense of community?
when my mom finally she had enough piano lessons where she felt that she could, return the favor pretty much. So we settled in Carnegie. As a
Mm-hmm.
matter of fact, my Zio still lives in the same house that we grew up in. He won't move. He's
Oh,
still there, same house. It was like a triplex.
yeah.
My twin, my mom and dad lived up on the top floor. My nonna lived on the middle floor, and my tia Teresa and my zio Giocondo lived on the bottom floor with my cousins. He still lives there. But
Okay.
she decided after we had gotten a little older that she would like to repay because she was
Mm-hmm.
so grateful for these piano lessons. So she started out teaching anybody and everybody. She taught people that were blind. She taught people that were mentally challenged. She
Wow.
taught anybody and everybody that arthritic people. She taught, and she always said, you have to be spread it around. What you've been received, you have to give it back.
Mm-hmm.
So she went along with this and taught piano, and then eventually we went to these friends of ours, the Caparellis. They lived on Mount Washington, and they said, "Jane and my dad's name was Leonardo. Jane
Mm-hmm.
and Lenny, you have to join this new group that they just started, I
Mm-hmm.
Campagnoli."
Yep.
And so she started out by joining it, and then eventually became the director, and away we went. And that
Mm-hmm.
was that.
So let's talk a little bit about the book and how it unfolds, whether because I don't want to call them chapters, but let's call them chapters. They're
Yeah,
brief,
little
right?
segment.
Yeah,
Yes.
segments. Thank you.
Mhm.
So they are brief, so they're digestible. It's easy, to go through a few of them, and I see interesting headings, not only about singing, but also musical talent begins to blossom. So you do elaborate on Frosinone. So was she able to go back and see some of her family members, the grandmother?
Never.
No,
Well,
never managed to. Usually those times also because people had to save up money to go back. I mean, we take it for granted now that we have air flight.
but I think she may have gone just one time, but that was after her mother passed away. She just visited her mom. So she did get to see her brother and her sisters, but that only once. You can
Yeah.
only go back once, but
So tell us a little bit about, again, some of the events that you wanted to highlight in this memoir that they're special to you. And then the man with the purple van.
that happened. I was just like, this is great. I wanted to talk a little bit about my father.
Yes.
My father was born in a little town close to Reggio Calabria, and it was called Sant'Ilario di Ionio, right on the Ionian Sea.
Yeah.
And his father, again, had come to the States and right before World War II. So my nonno Vincenzo came to the States, and my nonna was in Italy with 3 children during World War II. And my father never really talked about the war that much, but from what I understand, it was pretty brutal. They had to find hiding places and things like that. But my father was always an intellectual kind of a guy, and he wanted to go to the University of Locri.
Yes.
But it was 20 miles away. So fortunately, a professoressa took a liking to him and said, Leonardo, you can stay here at the university. I mean, you'll be dodging bombs and everything, but who wasn't? So his ultimate goal was to become a teacher.
Yeah.
And he was a teacher. He was just going to get started. And his father called him to come to the United States at age 20.
Yeah.
He was 20 years old, but they put him in, he spoke many languages, but not one of them was English. So they put him in the 6th grade all over again.
At 20, right?
At age 20.
Yeah.
And he had to quit. He had to find a job and all that fun stuff. So, but then he met my mom at a church play. And my dad was 27 and my mother was 17.
Ooh,
So
little
they're
age
10 years
difference
apart.
there.
10 years apart. So they got married, and my mom was going to have us twins. And my grandfather worked in the coal mines. My nonno worked in the coal mines. And he was on his last day. He said, all I want to do is sit on the porch and smoke a pipe and drink a beer. He was waiting for my father to pick him up. And my father got stuck in traffic. His very last day, he had his last paycheck in his hand. And he was run over by a drunk driver.
Wow. He never
to,
managed to enjoy his life as a retired.
A month before we twins were born. So then the month after that, then my twin and I were born, and he never got to see us. But
that's
you know,
pretty sad. Yeah.
Yeah, very sad. And left my nonna. She had just come over. Okay, here we go. Here we go again. But
So,
we had so many wonderful times. We didn't have much, but we did not know we didn't have much.
Yeah. And whatever you did, you probably shared with dozens of more people. But let's go back to the twins, because back in I don't know, but checking, the gender of the baby or figure out. I think you guys came as a surprise.
Oh yeah. We came as a big surprise.
It's like the surprise in the Easter egg. So tell us a little bit.
Everyone was mourning the death of my nonna, right? And I guess my mom, she went into premature labor like 2 months before we were supposed to be born. And at that time, the fathers were not allowed into, the delivery room. So there was a photographer from Carnegie who had been waiting for 2 days. My father went in, and then my grandmother met him there, my mother's mother, and they're sitting there. And my grandmother says to my dad, "Hey, Leonard." And he goes, "What, Ma?" He said, "I hear there's twins born in there." He goes, "That's nice." She goes, "Hey, Leonard." Your
Your
wife,
wife.
your wife, she's the only one there. He says, that's nice, Mom. He says, hey, Leonard, I think those twins are yours.
That's
And
funny.
the nurse
My,
came, they
yeah,
said the
my,
nurse came out and said, well, Mr. Ferro, you are the proud father of a baby boy. And he goes, what and? We just came for one. And that was
both
big.
are right, but I wanted to get
Yeah,
you.
we said, I want that one free.
My husband is also a twin, and I think they came as a surprise. Did you have any other twins in the family where that might be?
I had found out my Nonna Vittoria's mother, the one she left and never went back, was a twin.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
so paternal.
you and your brother Vinny were similar in personalities or not? So yin yang, black and white.
All I can say is my mom said when we first brought you twins home, your brother wanted to sleep. He was such a good baby. But you,
Mhm.
on the other hand, gridava, tutta screamed
You were really
constantly.
practicing exercising your vocal cords, right?
But no, we were opposites. He was very calm and very soft spoken, musical genius, but he was calm and soft spoken. And I now obviously never shut up. And I'm very gregarious and very outgoing.
Uh-huh.
But we never fought, not once, not a
Okay.
once, not a once.
And you guys also share that musical talent because you put together bands and everything. Tell us a little bit about your first band, who was in it, some of the names that maybe you proposed that didn't really last that long.
Well, the band that when we were about 12 years old, and the Beatles had just come out,
Mhm.
maybe a little earlier. But we said to my mom, Ma, we want to form a band. And she goes, anything that had to do with music, Viviana. She was all for it because it
Mhm.
kept us occupied off the streets and doing something constructive. So my twin played guitar. I played keyboards. We needed a drummer and a bass player. Well, these paisani that lived in Carnegie, their last name was Rossini, and
Mhm.
they had a son, Silvano, who played the drums.
Mhm.
So we went to visit them, and we asked him, Silvano, do you want to play? And he said, yeah, I really do. So it was myself, my brother, Silvano Rossini.
Mhm.
We didn't have a bass player. We didn't find anybody to play the bass. So my brother was playing on a baseball team for Steinmetz Baker in Carnegie. And there was a kid on the baseball team whose name was Michael Swartz. So
Mhm.
it was Mary Ferro, Vince Ferro, Silvano Rossini, and Michael Swartz. So 3 Italians and a Jewish kid. And we formed a band. We formed a band and we played all the dances. And of course, we didn't drive. So my
Uh-huh.
mom, who happened to be the only woman on our street that drove,
Oh, wow.
she
Mhm.
could have driven a Mack truck. She was such a good driver. I stink, but she was great. She'd take us wherever we had to go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
So what
that's
was
how
the
we
name of
started.
your first name, the name of your first band?
Well, it started out being something and it ended up being something else because I chose a name, the Chads. I used to like this television series with Chad.
Uh-huh.
It was called Medical Center. And
Okay.
and then the guys got there and said, we don't think that's going to work. So
Mm-hmm.
then we heard the Beatles song called Revolution.
Yeah.
So we called it Revolution after that. It became
Mhm.
Revolution the rest of the way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So your mom was obviously a great supporter of your musical talent. Did you learn to play piano from her, or sometimes it happens that, we see when people have spouses who are Italian and the other spouse has to learn Italian, they kind of just send it off to us. It's like, I can't do it, because the personal relationship. Did it happen between you and your mom, or
Yeah,
kind
well,
of,
she started off teaching my twin Vince and myself piano. But then, in her wisdom again, she realized that I was literally tuning her out.
Mhm.
I wasn't listening. So I was very grateful because a woman who had taught piano at Carnegie Mellon accepted me as a private student at her home.
Okay.
So that was a good thing because I wasn't listening. I just wasn't. I started out listening, but then after
Mhm.
a while, so I was grateful for that. But my twin brother, on the other hand, it's not that he didn't like playing the piano. He liked playing the piano, but he was more attracted to the guitar.
Mhm.
He loved
Yeah.
the guitar. So again, my mom tracked down a teacher. I don't know how they afforded it, but she would do whatever she had to do to give us music lessons. She
Yeah.
made homemade pillows and this and that, and so Vince, as a result, he became a guitar major, classical guitar major at
Mhm.
Dalton Wallace Conservatory of Music, and
Oh,
his teacher was a student of Andreas Segovia,
yeah.
and
Okay. Wow.
his teacher said to my mom, "Your son is in the stratosphere. I can't teach him anymore." So
Wow.
he went in the right direction because he
Mhm.
loved the guitar.
Yeah.
So that's how he did that.
Yeah. So we're going to take just a quick pause to hear from our sponsors. Applying for Italian citizenship? Need documents translation? Istituto Mondo Italiano provides certified translations and assistance services. Be sure to visit us at istitutomondoitaliano.org and schedule your free consultation. Un caffè, per favore. My first cup of coffee sets the tone for my entire day, and I get my coffee at La Prima Espresso. La Prima has been brewing Pittsburgh's best coffee for over 35 years. Try any of their in-house roasted varieties of beans from all over the world at home, or come and enjoy an espresso or a cappuccino at any of their locations, with their friendly baristas and familiar faces who will make you feel at home. Visit laprima.com to get La Prima Espresso coffee at your door. We're back having a wonderful conversation, lots of memories from our friend and author, Mary Ferro, who, with her book From Calabria to Carnegie, Music for Bread, he's sharing a story that is based on music, which is kind of a talent that, something that some other immigration stories we haven't heard about yet, and her own development for music. So you started to play in this band that probably never stopped. You were quite successful. Maybe at the beginning, you were hoping that people would ask more the songs that you guys knew how to play than the ones.
We only knew a couple when we first started. Oh, please ask us the 3 songs we know.
So let's talk a little bit about the physical neighborhood, memories of places, establishments, something that you really associated with childhood that might not longer be there. So unless people that have lived in the neighborhood can share with us, we wouldn't know that that would be there. So is there something that...
Yeah, as far as our neighborhood in Carnegie,
Yeah, exactly.
uh,
Remember Papa John, Papa J, but
Papa
this is
the
from
front.
that is from the 90s. So we're
Yeah,
talking
that was
about the
many
one that
years
came here.
later.
But I
This
remember Carnegie because of the flood. But again, this is more recent. So anything prior to that, I just,
Well, before I get into that, I remember when we were living at the triplex.
Mhm.
Again, us on the top floor, my nonna in the middle, and
And the
nonna,
piano on the third floor.
yeah, we were on third floor. And I remember one time that my mom said, "Okay, kids, let's play a game." And I said, "What are you talking about, Mom?" I go, "Yeah, of course we want to play a game." She goes, "Let's just whistle while you work." You know that song from the movie, da, 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 and go down to the basement. I said, "Oh, this is fun." And we thought it was a great time. Whistle while you work, da, 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 da. We're going down to the basement. And all of a sudden, I heard something that sounded like a freight train come down our street in Carnegie. Campbell's Run Road was where it
Yep,
was. It
absolutely.
came right down the street, and it was a tornado.
Wow.
It was a tornado. Thank God. We got away with just our windows were bashed, but that was the only thing that happened to us. And then of course the flood in Carnegie. A lot of things were damaged, and above all, our church was damaged.
Oh.
In Carnegie, there was like they had the Italian church, the Polish church, and the German Irish church. Our
Mhm.
church was called Holy Souls, and
Okay.
it was Italian church. And everyone went there every Christmas Eve. First, my nonna had to pretend like she was La Befana, like you do.
Thank you. Yes.
La
I'm a
Befana.
proud Befana impersonator.
Yeah, yeah. She was only like 4 feet 10, so we had to look hard. and uh, and every year they would sing Tu scendi dalle stelle.
Oh, yes.
And Nonna would, I mean, it was just one song, but every year she couldn't wait just to hear that song again.
Mhm. Yeah.
And unfortunately, that was one of the churches that was devastated by the flood.
Oh,
They never opened it again.
yeah. Wow. So, were there also some eccentric characters that maybe you remember from the neighborhood, or
But yeah, there was a lot.
like hard to choose just one?
I mean, there was a lot. I mean, you have your normal everyday person that would like walk around talking to themselves. And
Yeah, yeah.
I was one of them. There was, I think I liked a lot of people in our neighborhood. There were a lot of children in our neighborhood, and we didn't do like the kids do now. I mean, they're always on their phone
You
or
socialize, you play in the streets. I mean, you go to
we
really give
played
us
in
the
the
soccer
street.
ball and,
Yeah, we played,
mhm.
kicked around a soccer ball, kicked all kind of games, but we had to be in before the street lights came on. But
Yeah.
we had this lovely Ukrainian couple that used to live at the end of our street, Mr. and Mrs. Hoyson.
Mhm.
And when my twin and I would walk to school, we'd always wave to Mr. and Mrs. Hoyson. We always held hands going to school. And she goes, "There's my twins. Hello, twins." Everyone was cordial. And of course, you had your problems, but for the most part, everyone was pretty cordial. But we walked right over the hill to go to
Uh-huh.
Harding School,
Yeah.
which is no longer in existence. It's now an old folks' home. So I
Okay.
dated myself.
Tell us a little bit about your career working for public schools. God bless you. That's one of the hardest jobs ever, but also fulfilling because something that you manage to do with your students, even though they might drive you crazy, that just
Yeah.
kind of makes you get up in the morning wanting to do all over again. I've been I'm not in public schools. I had studied an Italian program in a private school. I teach every day, so that's dealing with a different student profile just because they're older, but that rewarding. It's a very rewarding profession, very tough, and I wish more people really, really appreciated. Everything that goes into being a teacher. So for that, I thank you. And so tell us a little bit, you were like a straight shooter, like this is what I want to graduate and study. Did you study something else and then had a change
No,
of heart?
no, I actually, and again, thanks to my dad, when I graduated from high school, uh, and this seems strange, but I had friends that had Italian fathers, and they
Mhm.
always discouraged their daughters from going into higher education.
Mhm.
I don't know why, but it just happened that way. My father, on the other hand, I had just graduated from high school, and came home and I said, "You know what, Dad? I don't want to go to school anymore. I think I want to be an airline stewardess." And all 5 feet two of me. And he says, "Look at me," because he had to find work in a steel mill. You want to be dirty like me? You don't go to school.
Mm.
You don't want to be dirty like me? You go to school.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was it. So I went to Duquesne, but I started out in a different major. I
Mm.
started out as a speech and communications
Mm.
slash theater major.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed it because I was on the radio station. They had a radio station. They still do, I imagine. WDUQ 90.5 FM.
Oh, yes.
And I one thing I never shut up. So I figured, well, okay, I'll do this radio show. And I loved it. I had my own show. I did the news, I did the weather, I did all this fun stuff. And then something inside of me said, yeah, I just love music too much. I love music too much. I'm going to transfer to the music school.
Mm.
And my mom says, are you sure? Because you're sitting pretty right now. And I said, yeah, I'm really sure. So when I auditioned and I got accepted. And when I transferred to the music school, I did not have time for the radio station any longer.
Oh, I'm sure
And
it
I was
was a
being
big
really,
loss both for whoever you were
oh,
looking at and all your listeners.
yeah,
You?
I'm sure they got over it, but it was, so then I thought the way most music majors think. All right, well, I'm going to go into education because this way, if I don't make it big on Broadway or
Uh-huh.
whatever, then I'll have something to fall back on. And my twin was the same way. He had gotten a degree in performance from Baldwin Wallace, and he was playing his guitar, playing his guitar in all these places. And then he got married and had my nephew Vince, and
Mhm.
then he had to look for a job that paid. So
Would
that's
be.
how he became a teacher. And then
Mhm.
I kept getting all these other jobs when I graduated. I was a teacher's aide, and then I was a cultural enrichment dramatic arts coordinator. I still don't know what that is. And then I was a substitute teacher.
Uh-huh.
And
Now,
then
was it an easy life as a sub? Because, kind of
I
being a
kind
sub
of
is like
liked
plug and play. It's not always the area of expertise or maybe the school.
Yeah. Oh no, no. Calculus. But they said they would put me everywhere. But since I was certified kindergarten through 12th grade, I would either be at the high school, the elementary school, or whatever. The only thing I didn't like was at that time, they don't do this any longer. They
Mm-hmm.
could call you any time of the day. Like they could call you like 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever. And it was like you were on call all
Yeah.
the time.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now they pay really good money, but then they paid nothing. They
Okay.
paid nothing.
So, and then you work or attended Carlington.
Both.
Okay. And explain to our listeners where the name Carlington comes.
Arlington.
Mm-hmm.
Well, originally I was from Carnegie, and they had students that were from Crafton who had
Mm-hmm.
their own schools. And again, other students from Roslyn Farms, which had
Yep.
their
Very
own
familiar.
schools.
Mm-hmm.
What had happened is after we went kindergarten through 8th grade in our respective schools, they
Mm-hmm.
had built a new high school,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Yeah.
were going to combine all of us together. So they got the CAR from Carnegie, LYN from Roslyn Farms, and the TON from Crafton. And they put us all together. And we were the first ones to go all the way 4 years through.
Uh-huh. Yes, I'm familiar with the school, first of all, because I have a dear friend that used to live in Rosslyn Farms, but then I helped an Italian lady who was in the cafeteria of Cardington. She needed to pass her food certification. She needed an interpreter. So now, even before getting into cooking classes, I had already my own certification because I had to study all the material.
Long time ago, Viviana.
That was must have been maybe 10 years ago. And so I'm going to show
Because
you.
I knew Italian women that worked in the cafeteria. As a matter of fact, one of them, Maria, I don't know if I should say her name, Maria. Okay, she worked in the cafeteria, and she grew up 5 minutes away from my dad. And
Okay.
she used to work there.
Okay.
She used to bring all kind of good food.
So like any Cinderella, we are talking about some shoes. So let's look at these shoes and the memories they bring to you. So here they are. What are we looking at, Mary?
We are looking at, well, they call them Shojade because my mom always said that the people from Frosinone developed
Mhm.
shoes or
Mhm.
what have you. But these were the shoes that we used to dance with in I Campagnoli
Yeah. Mhm.
for the women, of course.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so when did you get involved? Because your mom was already involved. So did you where you couldn't wait to get in, or maybe you joined the group later? So tell us how you started with the group.
Originally, when my parents started going to rehearsal, because at that time there were two men directors, Professor Lorenzo Malfatti and Gina Richards. He was the choreographer, and my mom started taking us to rehearsal. We were about 7 years old, and we would fall asleep. And I keep saying, "Ma, it's too late. We have school tomorrow." She goes, "You'll be fine. You'll be fine." And so we started at age 7 going to rehearsals, and they didn't have I Piccoli Campagnoli at that time. They just
Mhm.
put us in the shows.
Okay.
So our very first instance of being on stage was at Carnegie Music Hall at
Oh, that
age
was a
7,
beautiful menu. Yeah. Wow.
and it just continued from there.
How long did you, how did the Campagnoli really started? I'm not familiar whether it was an initiative promoted by the ISDA initially to
Mhm.
kind of bring back folk dance.
Yes,
Mhm,
yes. And my mom had already been a big proponent of Italian folk music because, again, going back to the piano,
mhm,
he would, my nonna being illiterate, one way of communication for her was to play all these Italian folk songs that she used to hear when she was in Italy. So
yeah.
mom became enamored with them.
Yeah.
And when she joined the group, Ruggiero Aldesert was the judge in the ISDA at the time. And apparently they wanted to launch this well, most of us were Americans, but a lot of them were, Italian immigrants. So they launched it like he said, the Queen Mary. They made the most amazing costumes. They had a vast library of music. Professor Malfatti had a school in Lucca, and he had a huge library of Italian folk music. So they launched it like gold from the beginning.
Mhm,
And then the two gentlemen, after a while, they became tired of it, and they asked my mom if she would be willing to take over.
mhm.
And my mom asked my dad, "What do you think?" And he goes, "Do what you want." and she took it over. But see, we never traveled before then. But then when my mom became the director, we went everywhere, and there was no social media at that time, so I don't know how she publicized.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We went,
So
we
it's
were the first Italian American folk group to travel through Italy.
wow. Well, the good thing is that there is a huge revival of that. So I've seen it both on the music side. So dear friends of ours in Cleveland, Alaboara, shout out to them, have kind of used the Alan Lomax as the Anthony has did a thesis on that and then developed a reinterpretation of these old folk music. We see when I was in Italy, a lot of young people setting up new schools to teach folk dances. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just a beautiful art and a beautiful connection to the past If you go to Italy throughout the summer, where they have all these sagre or local festivals, you will see also the costumes, the jewelry, again, the folk dances. Were you guys, was your group creating your own costumes? Did you get some sent over from Italy? How was the process of dressing up the groups?
No, the initiation of I Campagnoli. There were women that belonged to the ISDA who were excellent seamstresses.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
And they made every costume themselves. Yeah, they did. We didn't we didn't have to send out for anything.
Mm-hmm.
They just, I would imagine, because I don't sew, not because I just don't
You
want
have
to.
a lot of other time.
Yeah, you have to have a lot of patience for that, and I don't have that. So no, they made each costume from each area. I think at one point in time, I could be wrong, but everyone had a costume from Abruzzo, a costume from Calabria, the most ornate costume that we had. And it was the heaviest one too, especially in the summer when we did a lot of our shows, was the one from Sardinia. It was gorgeous, just drop dead gorgeous. I mean, we had one from Naples, one from here, one from there. Frosinone was included as well, and the songs that we had sung kind of matched the costumes we were wearing.
Yeah, so absolutely.
It was something.
So one last question that obviously might lead to a few others. In the book, obviously, you include pictures of your family, but there is also a picture of the Ionian Sea. So let's talk a little bit about your memories or your recent trips to Italy, relatives there, and have they read the book? Tell us a little bit about the other side of Mary, the Mary in Italy.
The Mary in Italy. I have not been back since 1998, but the first time I had gone by myself, and my dad did not want me to go, I said, after I graduated from college, I said, Dad, I'll be fine. I'm only going to be myself on the airplane. And he goes, no. And my first cousins, my dad's sister never came here. So I have first cousins there and a ton of other relatives. Anyway, I ended up being able to go by myself. And every time, my heart is so huge for Sant'Elario in Calabria. And I would go there and people would treat me, Maria Teresa, parliamo la tarantella, Maria Teresa, cantiamo una canzone. It was just magical. I don't have anything else. And, my cousins, my aunts, my great uncles, and it was like, yeah, this is where it's at. This is where it all started. This is where my dad used to run around in the dirt roads, and this is the little schoolhouse where he was teaching. I can't really put it into words. It was just magical. My heart was so, and my grandmother's sister looked like an identical twin to her, Grandma Victoria, Nonna Victoria. And my Nonna's sister, my Nonna Carmela, her sister looked like an identical twin to her. So I felt closer to them. And in Calabria, they were always trying to find new songs for us to do because they had heard about I Campagnoli. And once I was on the beach on the Ionian Sea, and they came up with a song called Nino Ne, and I guarded that song like you wouldn't believe. And I had a chance to record it because I had made an album, Da Maria con Amore.
Yeah, indeed. So the time has come to move on. Music to bread, indeed. Bread made with mere pennies that took on the role of diamonds in its value. A bread that gave rise to the finest wheat perpetuated with love. Grazie mille, nonna and nonno. Grazie mille, mamma e papa. From Calabria to Carnegie, the seeds were sown across the Atlantic. Those musical notes must have adhered to your souls as you embark on the adventures to the new world. Farewell now, sweet music, until we meet again. And I cannot not get tear on this.
I love that. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of the show. I have a new grandson whose name is Aurelio.
Mhm.
So the Italian tradition continues.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, so unfortunately, our lovely conversation together is up, and il Big Ben ha detto stop, and it's time for us to say arrivederci e alla prossima. We want to thank you for tuning in to the program, and if you have any questions or comments, or if you have any topics you would like us to address, please contact us at theitalianradiohour@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And remember, if you or any of your family and friends have missed a prior episode or would like to listen to this episode again, subscribe to the Italian Radio Hour on YouTube or where you catch your favorite podcasts. And don't forget to share, because sharing is caring. I would like to thank again my lovely, vibrant guest, Mary Ferro. I would like to remind everyone that she will be presenting her book, From Calabria to Carnegie, Music for Bread, at the Heinz History Center on May the 22nd. So bring your friends, your family, the entire village. She will definitely enjoy to meet you all. Thank you to our sponsors, Istituto Mondo Italiano and La Prima Espresso. And until next time, alla prossima. Ciao, ciao.